most people think that storytelling is about entertaining, and that's one of the first things that I want to point out. You are not there to entertain anybody when you are storytelling. You are there to connect with them. You're there to communicate emotions, ideas, elements of yourself that you need them to know about you, like what your deal breakers are, what your rules are. Through storytelling, you're also letting anybody you're talking to know what it is you can offer them without just being a direct bragger about it. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. You are not there to entertain anybody with your stories. Entertaining through storytelling is like a side effect, but it's not your primary focus.
Right. So what would you say the importance of storytelling is?
Storytelling is a way of communicating ideas and your, things about yourself without being so direct about it. And it just, how do I say this? It's a softener of sorts. Now, I could tell you that I happen to believe in, chivalry. Now, am I going to say just right off the bat, well, I believe in chivalry? Not very effective, because it makes people wonder, does he really believe in chivalry, or is he just saying so? Or I could tell you a story. From the time I was very young, I remember that I was always opening the door for people, and usually I would open the door for older people if they're walking with a cane. It's just the idea that I don't have to do it, I choose to do it. And doing something like that's very important to me. Mm-hmm. Now, which is more effective? Simply saying, I believe in chivalry, or telling a story about from the time that I was young, this is what I would do, this is why I do it, this is why it's important to me, and this is why you should care.
Well, what I think is interesting is that people generally, tend to make their own conclusions when they've met somebody for the first time. And when you sort of open the door to allow them to make their own conclusions as opposed to telling them what you think they should be hearing, they're a lot more open and a lot more receptive to agree with you.
Exactly. If you go up to anybody and you say, this is the way I am, the first thought that's going to go through their minds is, how do I know you're telling the truth? Prove it. Mm-hmm. However, if I'm simply telling a story, like you said, they are going to make their own conclusions because they've got the evidence. So I don't have to say that I believe in chivalry. They'll turn around and say to me, wow, you really believe in chivalry then? Mm-hmm. Well, mm-hmm. Yeah, I do, actually. How did you? Oh, yeah, you heard my story. Okay, never mind.
Right. So how does one become a good storyteller? Because it seems like a little bit of an art.
It is an art. My background is in the field of communications and theater, as we talked about in the last webinar. And it's something that develops over time. But I'm going to give you some very specific points right now to turn anybody into a half-decent storyteller just in starting out.
All right.
First element, the very first element of storytelling is the idea of themes. You know how some guys say that, I run out of material to talk about? Mm-hmm. Okay, this idea of understanding themes is going to solve that problem. So anybody who's listening to this, if you have a problem where you keep running out of things to talk about, just study this next part for the next 5 minutes. You won't run out of things to talk about anymore. Here it is. In any story you tell, there's going to be a number of different themes. When you're moving on from story to story, whether it's the story of the person you're talking to and relating it to one of your own, or multiple stories coming in from your own life, you're not relating the stories based on the story title or the fact that it has a common element. You're relating it through its common theme. So that's all the theory. Now we're going to get into the practical application. Mike, I'm going to ask you to follow my lead on this one. I'm going to recite a nursery rhyme, and I want you to tell me, out of this 4 or 5 sentence nursery rhyme, how many themes come into your head. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. The nursery rhyme is Hickory Dock. Here we go. I'm going to recite the nursery rhyme for those people listening who've never heard it. Just tune in right now. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse went up the clock. The clock struck 1. The mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock. What are the themes?
Well, I got certainly a theme of the nursery rhyme. I got the theme of time with the clock.
All right.
I got the theme of animals or pets with the mouse.
Okay.
And I got the theme of action or sport, or because the mouse was running.
Okay, so let's start with those 4 themes. Just out of curiosity, you think you could pull out a couple of more? Let me read it to you again.
Okay.
And for those of you listening out there, grab a pen, grab some paper. That's the type of interview this is going to be. I'm going to give you this inner themes. You've already got 4 great ones there. Let's see if there's more.
All right.
Hickory dickory dock. Hickory dickory dock. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1. The mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock. What are some additional themes?